friends, this is Chandra from Atul Mac Technologies. And in this episode of TopBrass Likeable Leaders, we are honored and privileged to have Mr. Atul Saran, who is the founder and managing director of Zesta Technologies. So we graciously welcome Mr. Atul Saran to our show.
Hi Chandra, how are you? Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, it is our privilege, Atul, and we are thankful that you found time and joined our show. And to introduce very briefly, Atul has been part of many large organizations. He has a global presence. He's a brand by himself, recognized globally. And so we will now like to hear from him his leadership mantra. And so Atul, tell us, your journey has been very versatile. You have been there, done almost every challenge that you have come across, and you have come out victorious from those. What would you like to share with us? How it happened, how it started, and where it is going? So we would like to hear from you, Atul.
Chandra, it's about 3.5 decades now in the IT industry. I started my career with TCS, where TCS came to BITS Pilani campus, and that year in 1984, I was the only one they picked up from campus. And since then, I have seen the IT industry within India and across the world change and develop significantly over these last 35 years. And I guess it's been a very interesting journey, uh, working both in India and in countries around the world.
Excellent, Atul. Thanks for your candid introduction. So we now know that you have been active in the industry for almost 3.5 decades, and we have seen all the different kinds of transformation, starting from PC-based application to the current situation. So what do you think is your observation or learning about the industry and how it is progressing from this point onwards?
Yeah, Chandra, from my experience, I have been in the industry for so long, and I have played all the roles, whether it is as a software programmer, whether as a software outsourcing specialist, whether as an R&D manager, whether as a business development, sales and marketing, P&L, founding companies. To summarize these 35 years, and if I can look at the trends, I think the most important thing is I'm seeing new technologies keep coming every few years, mature over a period of time and become mainstream, and then they die away and replaced by a new wave of innovation. And these new waves keep coming. The only difference is that earlier that wave used to last for a longer period. Now those waves are coming so fast that it's a challenge for somebody in the industry to keep abreast with all the changing technologies and to be able to master them. And I think that's been the biggest difference between then and now.
Uh, so Atul, you have gone through a major career shift every few decades. So we would like to know all these transformation in business, how that shaped your professional life per se. And if you could share a few words on this, it will be very enlightening for our viewers, and they can pick up few success mantras from this.
Well, when I started as a software programmer with TCS and used to be a very small 900 people company at that time. However, over a period of time, I realized that if you want to do something meaningful, just being in a technical role does not give you the big picture. So I need to understand the big picture for me to do something more meaningful. And that is when I decided after 10 years to go in for doing my management, my MBA degree. So it was quite a bit of effort to go back to studying after 10 years. But I think post that, I started obviously getting into roles like business development, sales and marketing, P&L management, founding companies. And then you get a full picture of how technology is important, how customer engagement is important, how service levels of a company are important to really build a successful business.
Excellent, Atul. I think there is enough learning, and we don't have sufficient time to discuss all of them. I'm sure there are a lot of knowledge and learning in you. I think it will come out one day. So, moving on from here, with all this long career, what do you think is the biggest accomplishment you have seen so far, or maybe top three accomplishment that you would like to inform the viewers?
Well, I think I would list them down as what gave me the most, gave me the most challenging environments, and what really became something which were close to my heart. One was when we started the business in India for point of sale terminals. There was only 5,000 terminals. By the time we finished, we really revolutionized the whole payment systems in this country. And I got the Veriphone's President's Award for the highest revenue targets, and that too in a country like India. And the company paid for a 7-day trip of me and my wife to the Caribbean islands, fully paid trip. So that was one of the interesting areas that I really cherish till this day. The second was the opportunity to work and actually be part of writing the IT Act, getting it gazetted in India, working to frame the regulatory framework and rules for certificate authorities in India, and being the first organization and the first managing director for a limited company, SafeScript, to get the license to issue digital certificates in this country. Since then, things have really changed, and many others, including Reserve Bank of India and TCS and others, have come up as certificate authorities. But SafeScript became the first one in the country. And there again, that was extremely challenging, but at the same time, extremely fulfilling too. The third thing was bringing the whole smart card technology to India. I remember for 3 years I was evangelizing smart card technology in every bank's top management, working with IIT Bombay, Reserve Bank of India, and uh, SBI in Canada. And finally, it culminated into um, Indian standard called SMARS for pre-authorized debit card, gazetted by RBI. And then, as Verifone, we could actually sell many such systems across the entire Indian subcontinent, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, running into multi-million dollar deals. So that was very satisfying, is to get it started from scratch, and then finally uh, seeing some revenue at the end of the tunnel.
Excellent, Atul. And at this point, for the benefit of viewers, I would like to share a few information points about the journey of Atul. Atul has been a pioneer in the space of payment systems in India. He was associated very closely with Sodhan and many other projects, which we today assume that it is like very normal thing. But Atul and his team was the key people, one of the key teams in India who were actually propagating all that in this subcontinent. So moving on, Atul, um, professional journey is a mixture of ups and downs. It's like a sine wave which goes ups and downs. And while there are a lot of good works you have done, and you have contributed to the Indian economy, uh, I'm sure there are your part of challenges that you would have handled, or sort of failures. So, would you like to share some of these challenges or failures, and how you face them and how you overcome them? That will be good knowledge for us to know.
Well, I think failure is part and parcel of any journey. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and mm, that is when the fun comes. Is when you win, you really enjoy. And I too had some failures. One of the most notable ones, and which still rankles me, is during the 1999-2000 period, the world was going for internet-based businesses, and me, along with a colleague of mine and and a customer who became an international customer who became a very good friend from the US, we went together to start a new company to build up the new generation of payment systems. During those days, we were talking about payment systems encompassing mobile payments, internet payments, and physical payments, all three into a single system. We went to venture capital funding, and we did uh, present to a whole lot of luminaries in the Indian and international industry to get a funding, and we got a number of term sheets. However, just when we were about to close the final shareholders agreements, the international there were 1999 2000 bubble burst, and suddenly everything fell through. And at that last stage, the funding didn't come through at the last stage. So it was very disappointing, but it was a great learning in knowing how funds are raised, what venture capital company is looking for, what are the expectations from promoters. It was a real good learning. How do they value business plans? What kind of analysis they do on business plans? How do they look at whether they want to play in that field or not? It was a tremendous learning.
Atul, I think you would have seen a lot of challenges, and we can't cover all of those challenges in limited time that we have. But one of the things, in fact, one of the things that you mentioned is the change in the business paradigm. Every few years, the industry goes through a bit of a change, and new technologies, new way of doing business evolves. So, I would like to ask you at this point, where do you see our industry moving, and how the new business or the existing established businesses cope with this change?
Well, I think definitely we are in that cycle of change at this point in time. There is a lot happening where a lot of new startups are coming up, which are funding is easily available, and a lot of new and internet is really dominating. Internet and mobile are dominating everybody's life, and I think the way of doing business is completely changing. Even established companies are finding that is a challenge. Their existing business models no longer are as effective. Their existing ways of operation are no longer as effective. And out of nowhere, new entrants come and take over markets. In such a scenario, there are few things which still remain constant. What are the critical success factors? I think one of the most critical success factors is being able to articulate your vision, your value proposition to all and sundry. Because if you are able to do that, then you get uh, beta customers very quickly, you get new customers very quickly, you get dedicated employees, which are essential to build a business. The second thing that one has to take into account is the employee base. Today, to build any company, making sure that star employees, you are able to retain them, you are able to manage their expectations, you are able to get them motivated, is absolutely critical for any company to be able to succeed. A single person alone cannot do much unless you have a core team, a good team, which really is able to deliver on the plan that one has built up. So I think these are few things that haven't changed. There are other things which have changed. As I said, today the business models have changed completely from always looking at risk mitigation and worrying about profitability. Today the business model has changed to um, scaling very fast, acquiring customers very quickly, and taking a lead position in the market.
So Atul, having pioneered various business areas, starting from payment gateways to mobile payments, micro payments, and then also becoming one of the great pioneer in India about print ERP, having established the print ERP in a big way, not only in India, but also in neighboring countries or even continents in Africa. Where do you see this changing scenario would take your journey, and how would you see yourself shaping the future for your company like Zesta or maybe other entities that you may come up?
Yes, Chandra, when we set up Zesta, I think it was good that we foresaw that cloud is going to become one of the hottest technologies. So from day one, we decided to create our ERP on cloud rather than going the desktop model. And I think that has stood us in good stead. We, over these years, we have built it up as a cloud-based system. And in our next version of that, we are making it purely as a software as a service model to reach out to customers all over the world, where because being on cloud, support is easy for us, and customers are mostly now online, are looking for online cloud-based solutions. However, as I see it, print industry is under pressure because of mobile, internet, digital coming in. And I, being a technologist at heart, I'm now looking at other areas. I'm actually learning myself, spending my time in learning and working on drones, designing drones, working on artificial intelligence and computer vision, because I do see these technologies are going to be there for the next decade, and I still am not ready to hang up my boots.
Certainly. So uh, you mentioned drone, you mentioned artificial intelligence. Uh, how do you see your contribution to bringing out new technology which can help people by and large as a visionary?
Well, I think on AI, I don't need to say much. Everybody is writing and talking about AI and how automation and AI is going to change the face of how the technology solutions are coming up. The important thing here to understand is that automation can take up manual or cognitive routine processes where the work is routine. So if you are an accountant, you might lose your job. If you are a bookkeeper or if you are a driver, you might lose your job. There may not be a job down the line. As we know, with self-driving cars, there may not be a need for a driver at all. But when it comes to non-routine things where it requires creative intelligence, arts, where it requires social intelligence, perceptions, then those things are still roadblocks for computerization. And those areas may not get automated. Only parts of those areas may get automated. And the job content may change for people where they may be free to do other things than doing the routine part of the job. So that's really a balance in terms of some jobs will be lost, but some new jobs will be created. Largely, the content of what kind of a job you are doing may change, and it may need you to up, bring yourself abreast with new way of working, new technologies being used. As far as drones are concerned, it's a very interesting area. On one side, there are rules and controls and regulations because of privacy. And recently what happened in Saudi Arabia, where their refinery was attacked by drones. So you have to be very, very careful. So there are strict rules governing them. And that could be a dampener in terms of where you can use them, even though there may be a proof of concept may work, but it may not be feasible in the practical sense of the word. However, in certain areas, drones can really help the rural masses. I see agriculture is a great area because you're not really restricted there, and it can really help the farmers to take care of many of the things which today require manpower, which is no longer available in rural markets. Everybody is moving to urban areas. So I do see there are opportunities in the drone market, and it's supposed to be a $25 billion market by 2025. Let's see how it grows. And all kinds of new applications are coming up. And I'm looking at basically using drone as a computing platform where I can apply AI, computer vision using drones to do something more interesting.
So, wish you all the very best from our side, and wish you all the success in this new emerging, and you come out as a leading pioneer in the Indian subcontinent. So, our best wishes for you and your new enterprise. At this
Thank you.
juncture, at this juncture, the anything new which is brought in into the industry, the investor community plays a major role in recognizing the opportunity and driving it for like a decade or so. So, do you have any specific message for the investor community, especially with regard to the AI around drone technology?
See, the in any time when investors go for a market, they really look at the scale and the size of the market. Their interest becomes important only when they look at they can be the number one or the number two player. The companies that they fund become the number one or the number two players. So, from an investor point of view, I do see there is movement in the drone market. There are few companies, about 15 to 20 companies in India, I understand, which who are doing. But I am not seeing as yet any meaningful, solid applications coming on that. And I think that may be an area to really, because once you get into those applications, and particularly applications which are running on the computing power on the flying platform and not on the computing power on the ground, then it will take off. So I think we are on that cusp of seeing that happening, and that would be a great area for investor community to look at.
And since you're one of the key person here who is leading this change, who's trying to develop a new business model around the new technology, would you like to share some of the insights or some of the advices to the people who are trying to invest or enter in this space?
Well, I think I wish I would have been born a few years later with the which is there today. Funding is not easily available, and it's the perfect environment for trying out and experimenting and trying out new solutions. However, I will caution all the young people that who are leaving their cushy jobs to take up and start up companies, is that it's also a backbreaking work. It's not that easy. You need to be prepared to sacrifice. You need to be prepared to really struggle, and but it can be very satisfying if you are able to achieve your basic milestones.
It was wonderful talking to you, Atul, and I'm sure there is a huge ocean of knowledge in you, a lot of knowledge, a lot of ideas, a lot of experience, and you can definitely drive the industry towards a successful point. However, with the limitation of time, we can gather as much knowledge today, and we look forward to welcoming you once again in future, where we can, know more about your journey and your experience. But we are very thankful to you coming on this show called Top Brass Likeable Leaders, and we look forward to welcoming you once again.
Thank you, Chandra. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. And definitely, I'm always open, and we can definitely have more such chats down the line.
Thank you, Atul.
Thanks a lot for your.
Thank you, Atul, and we will meet again very soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.